or lack thereof.
Right.
Luckily, I started out the quarantine with plenty of hair goop. And now I'm rapidly running out of goop, not hair. I swear to God, don't talk about my hair.
As somebody rapidly running out of hair, I find it all terribly unstressful.
Well, the week this quarantine went down, was the week I was planning to get a haircut.
Oh.
I was like, yeah, I'll get one Saturday. I get paid. It'll be fine. You're not going anywhere.
Well, hey, everybody. What the heck? Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Joseph Croseth, and in the middle here is Mr. Gary Mitchell, the co-director of our American Sci-Fi Classics Track. And 2 internets away from me is one of our Classic Track irregulars, Mr. Michael G. Williams, guys.
Hey.
We're going to do a live panel discussion of a thing. And as always at DragonCon Classic Track panels, you cannot, I guess I wonder if there's a way to rate this thing. I say just like...
They can leave comments below.
Ooh, yes. So leave 5 stars worth of comments below. And if you want to donate to a charity, hey man, you do your thing. We're not going to lock you anywhere. You're already
locked in.
You're already locked in. We jumped the gun. We were locking people in years ago.
Is this where I hijack the panel and make everybody watch The Apple with me?
Yes.
Ooh.
Okay. I'll have to rush out and get a copy of The Apple.
Amazon will deliver it to your house, but it's non-essential, so it'll take 3 to 5 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got a friend, she ordered some new gloves, and she has Prime, express shipping, mid-May.
Well, that's not fun. Come on, guys. Somebody says, Gary, I love your beard.
Yay!
It's the mutton chop.
I'm doing the full Lemmy.
Nice. Here's what I appreciate: time for hair experiments.
That's true. I have been told I should do a reverse mohawk to continue this.
Yes, you should. 100%.
Please do that. My hair doesn't grow out long and luxurious like Rick Springfield, like I wish. It just grows out huge, but it's not been this big since the mid-90s.
Oh, wow.
There was an unfortunate period where I had hair this big and as long as it would get, which isn't very. And I even tried like a little goatee, like a little goat. And for me, it was like 4 hairs right here. It was disgusting. And I have witnesses because I worked with my wife at the time. She was not then my wife, but somehow, despite this thing here and that there, she married me anyway.
Well,
gosh,
just shows her taste.
And immediately as soon as we started dating, of course she said, "You're gonna cut all that off." And it went away. Poof.
Yeah, I have to confess, this is actually the second time I've tried the mutton chop look. I tried it in the early 2000s, or late 90s, early 2000s. I stopped when I went to grocery shopping. This lady looked at me and she was like, "Are you a Civil War reenactor?" No, I just thought this looked good. She gave me this look like, really?
Really? Tell me what.
That is so funny.
That is awesome. Oh, this is the Gary Beard panel. Does the bomb? Holy God.
It depends on if I've shaved this or not. There might be a little friction.
We can't make these comments at 7 p.m. We have to wait till 10 p.m. at DragonCon to make comments like that.
That's a whole other convention.
A whole other convention.
Which has been postponed from April to December. So there we go.
So, Gary, do you remember what our panel was going to be?
Apparently, my follicle choices.
Yes.
We were going to talk about the movies of the year 2000. And somehow we need like Conan O'Brien to have a thing with the bells around his neck. Going,
that was, I swear, one of my favorite things that Conan O'Brien did. Especially after the year 2000, because he kept doing it. It was like 2005, 2006, and he was predicting in the year 2000. I loved it.
He should bring it back.
Yeah, gummit. Now, in his ridiculous, short-lived, thanks to Jay Leno, Tonight Show run, he did.
In which he was much better than Jay Leno.
Yes.
He
did it.
But Jay knew where the bodies were buried, so.
Yeah. He did it, but he called it in the year 3000, and it wasn't.
It doesn't work as well.
No. So here we go, as prepared as we ever get on the American Sci-Fi Classics Track. Ladies and gentlemen.
Well, considering one of our guidelines is winging it.
We like to wing it. Me and Gary were on a podcast the other night, and we winged it. We winged the crap out of it.
Yeah, because, well, it wasn't our podcast, so the pressure was off.
100% off. So we winged the living hell out of that thing. So
hi, Lola.
Mr. Williams, what we're going to do at some point, and, maybe tonight, since we're winging it, we'll do readings from novelizations like we are going to do at some point.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I do not have a novelization handy, so I'll have
let me tell you, I have plenty. I wish, yes. This is what I like doing on these little video things. I've got my little bookcases. You can't see them. I've got my bookcases on both sides, so I can just grab any random thing. Tell you what, you guys.
Again, that's a whole other con, Joe.
Well, yes, it is, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just going to grab a random thing. Okay, all right. The
internet needs a harassment policy, like stat.
All right, I got a pile of books right here. I'm gonna riffle through them, and y'all just say stop, and then I'll show everybody whatever it is.
Okay.
Stop.
Please stop.
For the love of God.
It is New Mutants number 50. Is that New Mutants number 50?
Hey.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, Fall of the Mutants.
I've been rereading the New Mutants, and they are mostly delightful.
I have a theory that the New Mutants movie is actually one of the signs of the apocalypse because it keeps getting pushed back. And if it ever actually does get released, that's it.
It's going to be like Doom.
Yes.
It's never going to happen. And then when it does, the world is going to end.
Mm-hmm. It's like Bo Brown, the leader of the puppetry track, lovely human being, was talking about they keep threatening to do a Masters of the Universe movie. And he says he's not going to believe it's happening until he's in the theater and the credits have started. And even then, he's like, I don't know.
I won't believe it until I'm in the theater and the closing credits have finished.
They stop it halfway through. Like, no, we can't do it.
Until there's a guy in there sweeping up and telling me to leave, they could veer left and make a different movie.
Very true.
When Danny Trejo is the voice of Battle Cat, or nothing, or I'm out.
Oh, okay, I'm in. I am totally in. And we get William Dafoe as Skeletor. He doesn't need makeup.
No, no makeup. He's just gonna do it.
William Dafoe as himself. Sitting on his throne of skulls.
Who is he? That is Dafoe. It's a Masters of the Universe name right there.
That is a very on-brand Masters of the Universe name.
Mm-hmm. Right up there with Fisto.
That's my favorite. Fisto's my favorite. All right, movies, sci-fi movies from the year 2000.
Every marketing group needs a 13-year-old boy on staff so they can run things by him, and if they giggle, they know.
Oh yeah, totally.
They didn't have one when Fisto was put out there.
For sure.
All right, so who wants to go first?
Ooh, I'll go first.
All right, what you got?
So what were you guys doing in the year 2000?
Let's see.
In the year 2000, I was working for a telecom startup that was about to go under. and I was driving from my home in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, to Greenville, South Carolina every Monday and driving back every Friday, and basically living in Greenville, South Carolina for the week to work for this failing telecom startup. Yeah, that's what I was doing.
That is crazy because myself and Gary has met Shane Ivey, the co-founder of our little website, revolutionsf.com. Right as we started doing Dragon Con stuff, he and I were working for a soon to fail comedy website, and it was on AOL. That's where we were. Yes, and
Hecklers.com.
Yes, hecklers.com, and it was run by 3 dudes who went to college together, and they acted like it. But they started a sci-fi website, and me and Shane were the launchers and the creators of that thing. And so we came to Dragon Con with press passes, and we were going to do interviews. And instead, we met Gary, and that was the end of it. We didn't do anything.
Mm-hmm. You got me a press badge for, I think, 2 years, or was it 3 years?
Oh, yeah. Got those press badges. Got those sweet press access.
Yeah, it was nice.
Yeah. So what were you doing in the year 2000?
I was working IT for a consulting firm for a hospital, because the hospital had done had hired a bunch of consultants. Like, how can we save money? And the hospital they told the hospital, you're spending too much money on full-time employees. You should get contractors. That way you don't have to pay their health insurance, yada, yada, yada. So I worked for them for a year, and then they were still hemorrhaging money. So they hired another group of contractors, and they came in and said, oh, you're spending way too much on contractors. You need full-time employees. That way you don't have to pay all the overhead to and so all the contractors got let go.
Oh, jeez.
So I spent most of 2000 working for them, and then I spent like 3 months unemployed, and then I got my Time Warner job.
Sweet.
That's a very working IT in the year 2000 kind of story, too.
Mm-hmm.
I left a failing telecom startup to work at that failing telecom startup. And everybody there was somebody who had left a different failing telecom startup to go to that one. And then 6 months later, we were all laid off.
Mm-hmm.
We, at our failing website,
So it was a year of failure, is what you're saying.
Yeah. Now, I did
good science fiction.
I did get married that year, so that has turned out great. We just celebrated our 20th anniversary by getting locked in the house together for now until infinity. But
for better or for worse.
Happy anniversary, says the Little River Band. But we plugged away at, and in fact, much like Michael, one day a week I drove to Tuscaloosa, Alabama from Clanton, Alabama, and worked there, and then came home, and until they moved the office to Birmingham, and which was close to my actual house. And then after they did that, they promptly went out of business as soon as they moved close to my house.
Mm-hmm.
And went out of business with. I happened to get to work early one day for the first time ever, and I was the first guy booted out. Congratulations, Joe! You got here early. Now get out.
Oh, my biggest memory is that I had to leave the 99 to 2000 New Year's Eve party my friends were all throwing, which was a huge, big deal, huge party. It was a mystery party where everybody had characters, and I had to leave at like 10 because everybody at work was like, no, you have to be at the hospital by 11 in the IT room in case something blows up for the year 2000. And so me and 6 IT guys spent the changeover into the new millennium watching the ball drop from New York on Real Player.
Real Player. Oh,
I know.
Gary, that's a beautiful and sad story.
It really is.
That's an epic tragedy right there.
It was. And we all just kind of waited like 10 minutes. Nothing blew up. Like, all right, that's it. We're going home.
Shut it down. No, we watched at Heckler's that day as it hit midnight in other countries. So as soon as that first country hit, we thought, okay, civilization remains in existence. The computers work in Kazakhstan. Yay. And then they kept going until they changed over in America, and everything turned out okay, more or less. 20 years later, quote unquote.
Yeah, everything's fine. Everything all fine.
Everything's
How
fine.
are you?
We don't have proof that this isn't all those Y2K conspiracy theorists having been right all along. It just took a while.
That's true.
So
the timeline kind of shifted, and
yeah,
it was a delayed reaction. So the year 2000 was a lovely year with movies such as Mission to Mars and the other Mars movie, which was called Red Planet.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were competing Mars movies.
Yes. There was Pitch Black, which introduced us to the delightful Vin Diesel.
And is one of the best movie to video game adaptations ever made.
Oh yeah, Escape from Butcher Bay is amazing. It was actually one of the first video game movie adaptations that didn't suck.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, tell me about that. Tell us about that. I had no idea about that thing. There was a video game that worked and was good in the year 2000.
I nominate Gary to talk about it because you remembered even the name of it.
Yes. It was a prequel. It's the story of how Vin Diesel's character, whose name now escapes me.
Frank.
Frank. How he got caught by the Johns, the bounty hunter guy.
That's his name.
And taken to this hardcore prison, and he makes his way in there and tries to survive. And then, so you spend about the first third of the game just as Vin Diesel psychopath, and then you find the guy who does the thing to his eyes where he can see in the dark, and then it's your Vin Diesel psychopath who can see in the dark, and you run around stabbing people and sneaking, and it's actually a lot of fun. It was Xbox is what I played it on.
Cute. Dang.
In the movie, Pitch Black had a lot going for it. It was very effective sci-fi horror. It was very in the vein of how do you take a concept like Alien and really amp it up, really turn it into what if every moment they're all around you.
Yeah, I went into it expecting it to be trash because it was a sci-fi horror movie in February.
Exactly.
And I was just blown away both by the charisma that Vin had. All the characters were well done, well drawn. The creatures were cool, and it was a very cool concept. The whole running around in the dark. We had Claudia Black's in it.
Yeah.
And she has one of the most horrific deaths, which is fun. But yeah, I mean, it's like the moment that really sold it for me as this is better than it should be is at the very end when you have the main character lady who you've been following and Vin, and that's right near the end, and one of them has to make the heroic sacrifice type thing, and the girl dies and is carried off. And Vin Diesel's character just breaks down going, no, it was supposed to be me. And it's this just wonderful redemptive arc moment. It was just like, okay, yeah, they put some thought in this.
They really, really worked at making it more interesting than it needed to be. And I feel like that's a defining feature of a lot of the science fiction of the year 2000, where people like really worked to make things better than they needed to be to just sell a few tickets and make a buck.
Oh, yeah.
I think that
Riddick, that was his name. I can't believe I forgot his name because it's the title of the sequel.
Right. Chronicles of Riddick.
Yeah.
Surely it was Frank Riddick. I don't know who Frank is, but let's see what the year 2000. Well, let's talk about the two Mars movies, Mission to Mars and Red Planet. I remember seeing both of them, but I don't remember anything about either one. I feel like I saw the one, and then I thought, like, if I say, well, Mission to Mars was this thing. No, that actually was Red Planet. I don't know. Don Cheadle was in Mission to Mars.
Yeah, and wasn't Lieutenant Dan in the other one?
Lieutenant Dan, you ain't got no legs on this mission to Mars.
Literally the only thing I remember about either of them is that there is a scene in which someone's suit rips open or gets ripped open, and it is a scene that includes Terrence Stamp. I don't remember anything else about either of those movies. I don't know if it's Terrence Stamp whose suit gets ripped open. I don't remember anything about it. I remember that, exactly that, and that is all. Oh, and there was a lot of like cool reflective animation stuff on their masks.
Yeah. I remember in one of them, and I think it's the one with Lieutenant Dan, was trying to be the more serious sci-fi, more straightforward. It was a NASA mission. It felt more like I think it was a Disney movie even.
Oh.
Or at least Touchstone. And the other one was Val Kilmer with a crazy robot.
It was not only a Disney movie, it was based on the Disney theme park attraction.
Oh, see?
Oh.
Yeah.
Which is no longer around.
Because of this movie.
Right.
Right,
like,
yes.
Shut it down!
It's funny because I started to say, well, theme park attractions never make good movies, and then I remember Pirates of the Caribbean. So I think I'm kind of full of it on that one. But like, I didn't even realize it was based on a theme park ride. That is wild.
I actually rode the theme park ride. I went to Disney in '88, and it's one of the boring rides. It was in Futureland, and it was literally you walk through a space center. Oh, look, we're going to go to Mars, and you sit in a big round room in the seats, and they go, we're going to lift off, and they have a video screen in the floor and in the ceiling, and so your seat lowers, so you feel like, oh, the gravity from liftoff, and you see, where the takeoff and landing. I was like, well, I was in air conditioning for 20 minutes. That was nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So literally in 1988, I went to the same attraction.
Oh.
That is wild. But when I was 14...
Was it September?
No, it was in like June.
Okay, so yeah. Okay, yeah, I was there in
that would have been extra.
September, October. Yeah, that would have been like...
Right?
So Red Planet, which I'm looking at Red Planet, and now I don't think I actually did see Red Planet.
Okay.
That's
I love how we remember so little about that particular subgenre of the science fiction movies of 2000 that we're like, I don't know, Mars? I don't know.
There was Mars was in it?
Yeah,
but like
Gary Sinise, that's it.
I felt like a lot of those movies were trying to take advantage of like the hype that had been built up around. There were like Mars landers at the time, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, we just launched them, I think.
Yeah, and that was also around when Beagle didn't land at all, and there were a lot of conspiracy theories around that. And so there was a lot of interest in Mars because that was sort of like the next place we were going to go.
I do find it highly suspicious that Mars looks an awful lot like Arizona.
Maybe Arizona threw a red gel.
Yeah.
So Red Planet had Mr. Val Kilmer.
Yes, that's the one where it had the crazy robot.
Trinity from The Matrix.
Oh, you're right.
Miss Carrie-Anne Moss. And this is the one with Terrence Stamp.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, yeah, and it had Carrie-Anne Moss. Oh, bless her heart. Like, she's amazing as an actor. And after The Matrix, like, she was in some real duds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she was supposed to be the next big thing, and much like these movies, was.
Yeah, God, I'm so glad that the Marvel TV shows came along and she got the opportunity.
Yeah. Oh, she's amazing.
Oh, she's so good. Like, okay. This panel is not about Carrie-Anne Moss, so I will not veer us off into how much I love Carrie-Anne Moss. But I do love
that
her.
could be a whole other panel.
Sure.
It totally could be.
And The Mentalist was also in this movie. We just finished binge watching 6 seasons of The Mentalist. And that is a handsome devil, let me just tell you.
The vest. It's the vest.
Yeah, you think he's British, but he's not. He's an American handsome devil, and he solves crimes. That's it for 6 years. Him and Robin Tunney for 6 years.
That one is an interesting like riff on the like Sherlock thing, which has been big, for the last like 20 years. Like, let's figure out a way to do a different riff on Sherlock. But that is an interesting one about somebody who's not a detective who becomes the detective.
Yeah, and the unlike all the other shows, or a lot of the other shows, The Mentalist a coward. There's no fighting. He runs away. It's great. He doesn't learn how to karate kick anybody, chase anyone. He lets the police handle it.
Oh, it's time for the violence. I'll be over here.
Yeah.
I liked of that whole spate era of shows. I liked The Profiler because that was the competitor, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and there's a lot of that kind of show at that time,
Yeah, Crossing Jordan. That's a whole other panel again.
Oh my God, that would be a great panel.
Yeah, crime dramas in the early 2000s. Yeah.
What about Titan AE?
Oh, Joss Whedon.
I loved that movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was one of his early script doctors. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. It didn't catch on, and I'm really not sure why. Wasn't it part CGI, partly?
Ooh, in the year 2000, CGI wasn't.
Yeah, it was like a mix of traditional and CG, if I remember correctly.
And they were kind of trying to do a look at how we're honoring the roots of this genre, but also we're trying to push it into new territory thing. And it had this ridiculous cast. It was so good, really well written. But in a lot of ways, it was a simpler story than I anticipated out of science fiction, and a more complex story than I anticipated out of animation. And so I feel like people who went to see it because it was an animated movie were kind of like, "What am I watching?" And people who went to see a science fiction story were like, "Oh, it's for kids."
Yeah, it was. It should have picked one area and gone for it, and sadly, it was the last movie directed by Don Bluth that pretty much killed his animation company when it bombed.
Oh,
come on!
It was another one that came out at a weird time of year, if I remember correctly. And when I went to see it, in the theater the first weekend it was open because I was so into the trailers. But nobody that I knew really knew that it was a thing that was happening. I went with a couple of friends, and we were excited to see it. But the theater was mostly empty, and it was kind of like, oh, the rest of the world has no idea what to do with this.
Yeah, it came out in June 16th, according to the Wikipedia.
Oh, okay. Well,
so it got buried in the summer. Basically.
Yeah, exactly.
It should have been like a early part of the year or a winter release.
Yeah,
probably done better.
They should have targeted a school break.
Yeah,
and parents could have taken their kids and both kind of had a good experience there.
Did you guys? What about Hollow Man with Mr. Kevin Bacon? I think.
Oh, that was such a creepy movie.
I have never seen that.
He is it Bacon?
It's the Invisible Man. Yeah, it's Kevin Bacon. It's one of his few villain roles.
Oh yeah.
Oh wait, no, it's not Bacon. Yeah, it's Kevin Bacon. Yeah, it's one of his few villain roles. It was another one of early CGI where they knew what they were doing, so they did a lot of green screen painting him out.
Oh yeah, because he turns himself invisible, but it also makes him crazy.
Yeah, like
and
it does.
The freaky stalker. Yeah. At one point, you see like his internal organs, but not him.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it's like Slim Goodbody. Like,
yeah, he does the Slim Goodbody thing, and I remember one of the controversies at the time is when they do that, you actually see a little bit of the bacon sausage.
Oh.
You don't, not the real bacon sausage, it's CG, but still it's there. So.
CG bacon sausage. It's like the little ET from the Atari 2600, like.
But I remember that was a controversy, and I thought my favorite effect though was they did this kind of, they poured latex on him so they could still see him, but he was which is why it was called Hollow Man.
Instead of the face wraps,
right?
Classic.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was it was pretty solid. It wasn't as good as the new Invisible Man, which was really good, but it was solid.
I like the stories in which the Invisible Man, like the concept of invisibility, sort of, and that the way that they connect the concept of invisibility to feeling really alienated, and like totally outside of humanity. And once you're outside of humanity, you're sort of outside of morality. Yeah. And that's a really interesting take. I'm not totally sure that I agree with everything that it's saying, but it's a really interesting conversation for somebody to try to have through a story.
Mm-hmm. Well, that was one of the lines in the movie that's always stuck with me that I loved was there's a point where he's invisible looking in, he's in a bathroom. He's like, it's amazing what you can do when you don't have to look at yourself in the mirror.
Ooh, I forgot about that. That's good.
That's a great line.
But yeah, that was fun.
Every time I see an Invisible Man movie, all I can think about is Ed Begley Jr. in Amazon Women on the Moon.
Oh, God, that was so funny.
Where he says, I took every drug known to man. And then he goes out into the village and he's butt-ass naked. And he says, I'm invisible! Woo!
Yeah, I just love all the villagers who are like, oh, no. How did that happen? There's nobody there. Yeah, obviously, like, just pandering to this idiot rich guy.
Let's see.
Amazon movie Women on the Moon is a movie that has some moments that have aged well and some that have not. And that's all I'm going to say.
Wow. Yeah. Let me tell you. That's the thing about comedy. Mm-hmm. I know that this is the science fiction track, but we've been rewatching Reno 911 lately.
Oh, awesome.
And it's fantastic, and I love it. And I describe it to a friend when talking about binging it as an unkind fart joke of a TV show. Mm-hmm. And, like, there are parts of it that the joke lands, and it's funny, but I'm also like, I'm not supposed to laugh at this. And I feel the same way about things like Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. There are jokes in that where I'm like, oh, that's not a joke you can make now.
Try to watch Airplane. When was the last time you watched Airplane?
Oh, God, it's probably been 25 years.
Yeah. There are some jokes in there now that I'm like, ooh. Like the whole homophobia character.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he's the one who says...
Which has some of the funniest lines in the movie, but...
Yeah, he's
right.
This one, so...
But speaking of things that didn't age well, Dungeons and Dragons came out in 2000.
Oh, was that the year? Oh, because we, at our little sci-fi website, we went to see it as a group.
Oh,
and, oh my God. We all came out of the theater, and as soon as it was over, I thought that I thought I liked it, and then I was talked down by the rest of the staff because one of the guys, his name was Josh. He now is a game developer in California, I believe. He said that would have been the worst module ever. Because one guy goes off by himself and leaves the rest of the party. And then he broke it down in how terrible that this module would have played out. and I'm like, oh, yeah, I get it. I see it now. And
that, what you call that feeling that you thought you liked it at the end of the movie is Stockholm Syndrome. and that's a different panel. And
for that hour and a half,
you can talk about movies that you only say you like because it would hurt too much to admit it was awful.
I mean, we were all together. I thought we were having fun. It's Marlon Wayans.
I went to see that with my D&D group.
Oh my god!
And we're still a D&D group. And it survived seeing that movie. Yes. And at the end of it, our DM at the time was like, "Wow, that was great." And I just turned to one of the other players and was like, he cannot admit to himself how terrible this was. But it was awful. It was so bad. It was so bad that fewer people will play D&D now.
Yeah. That was the thing. We had all seen a bazillion, fantasy flicks, but this one had Dungeons and Dragons' name on it.
Yeah.
And
it's like I'd rather watch Hawk the Slayer than watch this again. And Hawk the Slayer is terrible.
We tried to watch that at the Classic Track, and it didn't work out.
I will say this though, for me, the most amusing thing about watching that movie is seeing Jeremy Irons realizing exactly what movie he's in and proceeding to go, all right, and chew on there is not a stick of that movie that doesn't have his teeth imprints on it.
Yeah, for real.
Although I think that's also, I remember when I went to go see Aragon later, I was like, oh, this is the Apology tour. Jeremy Irons going, no, I can do a serious fantasy movie.
Serious? No.
Like, it's a tough movie to think about also because it was a great time for actual Dungeons and Dragons. Like, that's when version 3 was coming out, and people were getting back into it, and there was a new starter set, and it was like simplified, and it was possible for people to enjoy the game and understand the game and not get like nerd shamed over having to ask what do I roll now every time.
What's Echo?
Right. The first that I was working with a group of nerds for the first time in my professional career. And so I was getting to do nerdy things. Like we played Dungeons and Dragons, and it was nice. And then this movie came out, and okay.
I kind of feel like all of us nerds, when that movie came out, knew how clowns felt when John Wayne Gacy got arrested. and like,
so the clowns are sitting there at home. And they
I never would have thought of.
Come on, man!
Like somewhere there was a clown who like pulled off his red nose and said, "Well, great. This is exactly what I needed." And that's how I felt at the end of Dungeons and Dragons, the movie.
Yep. It's not good.
No. I did at the time. I was like, wow, the best performance in this is by Lesser Wayans. Like, there is no more damning assessment of the film.
Yeah, and apparently he's a D&D player, and that's the whole reason he was in and pushed for the movie is he was a D&D fan. And he was like, yeah, this is going to be great. Like,
and he's good in it.
Yeah.
His death scene is fantastic.
He freaking does. Of course he does.
Of course.
Yeah, and it's got Richard O'Brien in it. It's got Tom Baker in it as an elf. I mean,
how about that?
It should have been great.
Yeah.
Freaking Tom Baker.
Well, they spent a lot of money getting really cool nerd people to be in it and not on writing it.
Yeah.
I wonder if
it's interesting though how the worm has turned now in that the nerd people are great. No, I'll be in it for cheaper.
Oh yeah. Well, we were talking about Vin Diesel earlier. Huge D&D player, loves fantasy and science fiction. Huge nerd. like engages in gaming, like all kinds of good stuff.
Yeah, he taught Judi Dench how to play D&D while they were making the Riddick sequel.
That's public service right there.
Yeah. What? I'm just trying to imagine playing a D&D session with Judi Dench. That's got to be wild.
Oh, everybody's drinking wine.
Right.
Her, who she's probably drinking beer because she's awesome.
Yes.
Or just alcohol that she mixed herself, probably. You can't handle this, boys. Bam! Boom!
She just like goes and dips her tin cup in the bathtub and comes back, you know.
She's like, look, I don't want to talk about it.
You want some gin?
Exactly.
Oh.
I mean, speaking of what we were doing at the time, in 1999, I graduated from college after, let's just say, a few failed starts, and and my last semester, one of my professors for a performance studies class saw me reading the new PHB for D&D and said, "What is that?" And then I described D&D to her as basically being, well, it's like a performance, but also there are dice to like help push the story in interesting directions. And she was so into this idea that it was also the semester she was retiring from the university. And so a retired tenured professor picked up D&D as a hobby because she was so into the performative aspects of it.
Oh, yeah.
How awesome.
Like, it was a great time for D&D.
Yeah.
A terrible D&D movie.
Yeah. If I can plug something else, there's a wonderful thing that goes on. There's a local there's a local theater company, Dad's Garage, to Atlanta, that does improvised Dungeons and Dragons, and they get a bunch of improvisers to come in. One of them DMs, and they do live Dungeons and Dragons. And they did it last year at Dragon Con with Mark Meir and Lucky Yates. And if you go to the Dad's Garage webpage, they've actually got where you can watch it, where they recorded it.
Sweet.
Yeah. So it's a ball to watch people in theater do Dungeons and Dragons.
So, okay, something else from the year 2000, Battle Royale.
Oh yeah. That launched a genre.
Yeah, that really did launch a genre because, like, that's clearly sort of where the Hunger Games came from.
Mm-hmm. I actually refused to get to read the Hunger Games book for like a year because I kept going, they're ripping off this Japanese movie. What's the big deal? But yeah, it's if you've never seen it, it's a wild ride of a movie.
Yeah, it's intense.
Mm-hmm.
And it also in many ways captures the ways that, like, teenage friendships and rivalries are bloodthirsty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in the real world, and then you take into a movie with, now you have a gun.
Yeah, exactly.
What about Unbreakable? Back in the news this year with the sequel movie.
Mm-hmm. Well, for years it was the best superhero movie that had come out.
Oh, absolutely.
I, much like the Dungeons and Dragons movie, came out loving it, and then I was not. Luckily, no one talked me out of loving it. In the parking lot of the Birmingham, Alabama mall where we saw the thing. But I dug that thing. I thought, this is what superhero movies are supposed to do. Mm-hmm. And no one had ever quite done such a thing before.
Nobody had taken it seriously before.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the big thing for me. It was like, it's such a grounded movie that all the superhero tropes are there, but it plays it. Everybody likes to say Batman Begins is a grounded, realistic superhero movie. It's still a rich guy as a ninja.
Yeah.
Unbreakable is a real world superhero. He'd no flashy capes. No, everything's much more. I can see this happening.
Yeah, they ratcheted up the tension of how mundane he was as a person and how his regular life is. It's not just suddenly he gets a secret headquarters,
Right.
and his wife thinks he's crazy, and then good stuff starts to happen after an incredibly long, miserable time. Wow, yeah.
Well, it's so realistic. Like if any of us were bulletproof, if I were bulletproof, I would have no way of knowing that. Nobody's ever tried to shoot me. Probably nobody ever will. You know, for all I know, I have superpowers, but I'm never going to find that out in my regular life. And
I'm pretty sure mine is metabolizing carbs.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a pretty good one to have. The scene where his kid pulls the gun and it's like, I'm going to prove that you're special. That is a terrifying scene and a fantastic dramatic moment that could have been in any mundane movie. You know, that the way that they play that is so like real and emotionally raw and so scary, so terrifying, so impactful. It's such a beautiful film, and I had gone into it never having any idea that Bruce Willis would play a real serious dramatic.
Oh yeah, it's when you can get him invested. Bruce Willis is amazing, but it's getting him invested. Otherwise, he just phones it in, and you get like Live Free and Die Hard.
Yeah, he plays Bruce Willis.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like The Sixth Sense had happened, and I was like, okay, well, that's the one-off. That's the exception that proves the rule. Right. He made one serious movie, but the rest of his career is always going to be Moonlighting and Die Hard. And I love both of those things, but like they're not Shakespeare.
Right.
And I was totally wrong. I went into this thinking, well, it's going to be kind of, you know, somebody just fell in love with Bruce Willis and decided to give him 2 roles. And no, he totally earned it.
Yeah. And Sam Jackson's performance is so masterful. Just that ending still breaks my heart when he's like, they call me Mr. Glass. It's just like, oh.
Like, I haven't watched the sequel because
I haven't either. I
love it so much that I'm scared to watch the sequel.
That's a whole other panel which I've done, and I'll discuss it with you later.
Okay, that's fair.
But yeah, you've made a right choice, and I'll say that. I mean, I don't regret having watched it, but again, that's a whole 1 hour conversation. But yeah, just his mother's performance, the scene of flashback of him when he gets the stuffed animals to ride the ride, and it's just like so heartbreaking. Like, he's so happy he's getting to do this, and then the stuffed animals fall away, and you're like, oh. I mean, it's just so tension.
Yeah.
Again, Shyamalan, when he's into it, and he's not into it, there's a level.
Literally into it, yeah.
Right.
It's like, no, you've gone too far. Come back up.
Pull it back. Take it down to about a 7.
Yeah.
A 7. No, I need to be about 13. 7.
Yeah. But speaking of superhero movies, also X-Men came out.
That was what I was saving until the end, and oh my gosh, I saw that movie 3 times within a 24-hour period, and I had never done that throughout when I was a Ute. Never saw movies that often.
No.
3 times in 24 hours.
When I was a kid, getting to go to town and see a movie once was a big deal. And like, as an adult, I lived, at the time that this came out, I lived like basically a mile from a movie theater. And I saw this at least twice in the first week that it was out. It was so good.
Yeah,
phenomenal.
Yeah, I kept taking friends to it because they were all going, "Oh, it's going to be a superhero movie. It's going to suck." And I'm like, no, you don't understand.
Yeah,
they
did it right.
This is what we wanted, what the D&D players wanted from the D&D movie.
Right.
The comic fans got in X-Men.
Yeah. See, and I was in because Patrick Stewart, Ian McKellen. And at the time, I was a huge fan of Bryan Singer off of The Usual Suspects and Apt Pupil. There's everything going on with him now, but at the time, I was like all in on Bryan Singer, and so I was hopeful, but it blew me away past my expectations. Just that opening scene where we meet Wolverine when he's doing the cage fight.
Yeah.
I need a fan if we're going to talk about that scene.
Yeah. The first time he pops those claws, I was just like, oh, they got it right.
Because you know what? They managed to keep all of it away from everyone. No one knew what anyone was going to look like. I think. I don't really recall, but I don't recall whether like leaks of what the characters look like had escaped. I'm not sure. Maybe
it was 2000. The internet wasn't what it is now.
That is true.
Yeah.
But we, we knew the actors who were going to be in it, but nothing else, not really. And the fact that like every argument that everyone had always had against superhero movies, this one said, "Oh yeah, boom! Oh yeah, boom!" And there was the big one was, "Oh, we can't have more than 2 super characters in a movie." There were like 12 in this one.
Yeah, and we get some great action scenes with them getting to actually use their powers. I mean, that was the only thing that always frustrated me about superhero movies before this. Is like Superman, he fights he fights a rocket. He doesn't fight any supervillains. Superman 2 has one fight scene between him and the 3, and then otherwise it's always it's a natural disaster and I'm going to use my. No, we get Wolverine facing off against Sabretooth.
Yeah.
On top of the Statue of Liberty.
Also, this movie was at the end of this movie was when I turned to the friends I was there to see it with the first time and said, "Oh my God, Magneto is right."
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I became Team Magneto, and like now I have I should have worn it for this. I have a tank top that says Magneto was right,
Oh yeah.
This is a movie that maybe radicalized me in the wrong way. I don't know, but it radicalized me and I needed it.
The pro-mutant agenda. Spend another hour.
Yeah. Well, and that's another thing that the movie did do what the comics did was the mutants are always a stand-in for the subcultures.
Yes.
It's racism, homosexuality, trans, everything. There is an X-Men you can find and identify with.
Yeah. They didn't shy away from that at all. They didn't at all try to say, "Oh, we're going to be really hesitant about this because we want to sell a lot of tickets." They leaned way into the story of the X-Men and sold a lot of tickets.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there was
also, I think, our first Stan cameo. Stan, where he's the hot dog seller on the beach.
Yeah.
Yes. And it wasn't even a thing. You're like, "Hey, neat, they got Stan Lee." But now, there was so many good things about that movie. I liked Cyclops for the first time in my life.
Can we talk about what an underrated treasure James Marsden is as an actor?
Oh, he is. That's true.
I mean,
he is
fantastic.
I like Cyclops, but I like James Marsden.
Mm-hmm.
No, Marsden, he is hilarious. He's been in tons of comedies since in the last 20 years.
Yeah, he made me care about Cyclops, like you said. He's one of the few decent things in Superman Returns. He made the Sonic movie watchable.
Wow.
I mean, wow. The man's a miracle work.
Gosh. I'd even say that he's like one of the best things in the last season of 30 Rock, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah. Oh my gosh. He's the one who he says to Lemon, do whatever you want. Real life is for March.
Oh yes, Leap Day.
Leap Day William. I love him.
Yeah, but Joss Whedon worked on the script. They kept 2 of his lines.
Really?
If you ever want to see, if you want to see something amusing, hunt down some of the interviews with Joss Whedon where he talks about that, where he went in, he'd written the script, he goes in for the table read like the next weekend, and he's reading through it, and he's like, they kept 2 of my lines. The rest of the script had been completely rewritten.
Wow, that's Hollywood.
Yeah,
but the 2 lines he kept are the 2 that you remember. What happens to a frog when it's hit by lightning?
That was
Okay.
And the bit of when Wolverine shows back up after the fight with Mystique, and Cyclops is, "How do we know it's you? You're a dick." Oh, okay.
And they were like, "Oh, we can say words on Marvel on superhero movies that you can't say in comic books."
Yeah.
And that was what was so shocking and hilarious about it.
Yeah, but Ray Park is Toad, and when he does the little spin to reference Darth Maul with the pole. When I met him at Dragon Con, that was actually the picture I got autographed. Everybody else was getting Darth Mauls, and I was like, I want Toad.
Toad?
But that scene when Halle Berry comes up out of the elevator shaft with the lightning coming around her, that was just like, oh yeah, Storm's a badass.
Yeah.
No, and there.
I don't like Halle Berry, generally speaking, but I do love the character of Storm, and I think that that's one of her best performances by far.
And I'm going to put this comment on the screen. Famke Janssen.
Yes. Oh, I love her.
I absolutely loved her. I thought, okay, well, she's the best actress now. She's Jean Grey. And they didn't do, of course, later in other movies, they attempted to do the Phoenix thing, but
I'm starting to think the Phoenix saga is cursed. It was done well in the comics, it was done well in the animated series, but every other time they've tried to adapt it, just horrible things happen.
Here's the thing about comics and about movies. Comics give you long enough to build real sympathy with the character and for the story of Dark Phoenix to be tragic. And if you're a comics fan, you're probably going to keep reading long enough for that tragedy to be resolved and for you to have a good feeling again.
Over the course of years.
Yes. You cannot fit that into 2 hours.
I have one friend who the X-Men were his book as he was growing up, and he was reading them when Jean Grey died. He sent flowers to the Marvel office in New York.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I have more than one friend who has a Phoenix tattoo.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. And the getting her on the screen, we thought, oh, this is Jean Grey. She's finally here.
Yeah.
Oh my God. But we didn't just get Jean Grey. We got 8 other people that had never been visualized outside of comics ever, except for, the cartoon. Yeah. But the fact that I always loved back then and still today seeing superheroes from comics in live action. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not as good, but I feel like there's that little thing. There's like that little thing that goes, ooh, neat, Jean Grey is here. Yay, look, it's the Toad. And and I like to keep that with me. And the X-Men said, okay, here's 12 of that.
Yeah.
And and a double helping with Wolverine because he was like the Christopher Reeve of the Wolverine.
Yes.
Pitch perfect casting.
And if we had not had 2000's X-Men, we would never have had Logan.
Right.
See? And that in itself was a 20-year journey. Yeah.
That is an arc that is long enough in the experience of the viewers to be similar to the arc that would be experienced by a comics reader. And that's why it's so powerful to us.
Like if
we have all those years with that character.
Yep.
If they had Famke Janssen in every X-Men movie consecutively, all 15 of them, and then did Dark Phoenix when they did it, instead of making her Sansa.
Well, they started to do it because with the second movie we get that ending.
They youngified and did the whole thing.
Well, no, I mean in X-Men 2 where she dies and we get the bit under the water, it was like, oh, they're going to do it. They're building it up. They're doing it right. They're taking their time. And then Bryan Singer goes, oh, you want me to direct Superman? Leaves. And everything.
That was the sound effect too. Like,
yeah. But getting back to the movie itself, my other thing I really loved about it at the time was the fact that it wasn't just the Wolverine show. It was the X-Men. At the end climax, it took them working as a team to stop Magneto.
It's a real ensemble.
Yeah.
They could, because the comics did this, they could have just made it the Wolverine show. But everybody had a good part. Everybody had a good chunk, a good scene, a good arc. And so much good stuff.
And it proved we could do superhero movies.
Yeah.
It started, I dare say, it started everything.
Yeah. And 8 years later, Marvel went, okay, who do we have left? Because they sold off everybody.
Right.
I've been going through my my old comics. I don't want to say old, my awesome comics. And reading stuff from the 70s, and poor Stan Lee's soapbox, because he left Marvel Comics to go out to Hollywood to try to sell stuff, and the Captain America TV movies is what happened. I love them. Anyway, unironically, I love them, but that is all Stan Lee could get accomplished. But in the Stan Lee soapbox, every month, hey guys, big news about movies coming up. They're working on an X-Men movie, and it's going to be tremendous. And this was 1979. So congratulations, Stan, 21 years later. And I was like, if I'd known as a 9-year-old kid, and as a 9-year-old, I'm reading that. I read that probably go, oh, yay, an X-Men movie. I didn't know that it would take 21 years. I would be 30. I thought 30 was dead at that point.
No, just your soul. Just your soul.
Just your soul.
Yeah. It came back, much like a phoenix. My soul returned. And
we're Generation X. We weren't born with those.
Guys, thank you.
I think there's one more that Michael wanted to talk about.
I know which one it is. Okay.
I need to talk about The Cell.
Yes.
Okay.
Because The Cell is clearly the best science fiction movie of the year 2000. I know that we're not doing Sci-Fi Classic Court at the moment. It's possible. It's possible that when it happens, that I will ask to defend The Cell. I took notes on why The Cell is amazing. At a time when we just rewatched it last night to get ready for this, and phenomenal. At a time when there are so many movies about where is the line between reality and unreality. Like, this is a really complicated movie about competing ideas of reality and like what's safe and what's not, and how do you move between different worlds and stuff like that. We've got The Matrix, and we have 13th Floor, and we have Existence, and we have like all kinds of things like that. Exactly. With so many movies like this, and here's a movie about that in its own way, but that is made not just as a part of that, but also as a tremendous homage to Twin Peaks. Like, I noted 7 things in the movie that are direct references to Twin Peaks. And then, like, in an interview afterwards, the director was like, yeah, I was drawn on Twin Peaks for that. But, like, they find the first victim dead, wrapped in plastic. She's in a body of water. There is Special Agent Man Hair Gel, who is here to save the day by, like, diving directly into the weird. In both stories, the killer sings Mairzy Doats. The truth can only be gotten to through dreams. Those dreams can be dangerous. You can be trapped in them. Both of them involve ostentatious, sort of conspicuous imagery of horses. There's a lot of really weird links between Twin Peaks and The Cell. But on its own merit, The Cell is a phenomenal film. Like, Jennifer Lopez really stretched to play a very controlled performance. She plays a professional at handling other people's trauma who stays very professional most of the time through somebody else being really traumatized. And it's like a very understated performance. Like, in a lesser version of this movie, it would have just been her running screaming through a set for 2 hours. Yeah. And like, it is never that. She is just somebody who knows what her job is, and she decides to do it, and that's that. Like, the story structure itself is like completely unpredictable. It has all these really familiar elements from that time period where like in the 90s we were really obsessed with serial killers because sort of as an evolution of the 80s stranger danger thing. And in this
and Silence of the Lamb had won how many Oscars?
Right, Silence of the Lamb like cleaned up the Oscars and made a gajillion dollars, etc. A whole bunch of people's careers got launched or revived out of it. And so here's this serial killer movie, but before the first reel is over, the serial killer's in jail. Like the serial killer's captured, like that. So like it's a very different story structure. It doesn't depend on like a punch out finish between Vincent D'Onofrio and Vince Vaughn. Instead, like the climax of the story is this moment of real compassion and kindness on the part of Jennifer Lopez, and like that's what makes it all possible for the resolution to happen. Like literally her choosing kindness and compassion makes it possible to solve the mystery. It makes it possible for the villain to be healed sort of psychically. It makes it possible for the leads to walk away from the story as friends. The dog lives. Like everything is made possible by the fact that instead of it just being two dudes punch each other until one of them dies, instead, like somebody really explores the emotions of another person and comes to understand them, and then we get the happy ending. And
it's incredibly visually stunning. Some of the visuals in that dream world.
This movie is
Tarsim. It was Tarsim's first movie, and you knew he was going to be somebody.
Oh my god, it's so good, and it's like an art exhibit that is moving around. It is so phenomenally beautiful.
Yeah, I saw an interview with him where he talked about like he originally envisioned it, at least all the dream sequences, as a silent movie. And if you ever get a chance, like watch it and hit the mute, because it's almost all visual storytelling in those scenes.
There's so many things in it that would have in a lesser movie been fast paced, and instead they are just slow, beautiful, drawn out things that we get to look at and like really live with for a minute. So good.
Yeah, it's got some really iconic visuals. That's what always struck me. And Vincent D'Onofrio's performance is just, and just some of the creepiest stuff in the dream world, like the hallway of all the women victims in his head.
Yes. Oh. And his performance in it is much more subtle and understated than it would have been in a lesser movie also. You know, this is a movie that really gets the kids are creepy. And part of the way that it expresses that is the way that Starger like flips back and forth between young Starger and older Starger. And the way that Vincent D'Onofrio, when he's portraying older Starger, like still sort of speaks like a child. It's so complex. So well done.
Yeah, like you said, it could have easily been people shouting at each other.
Yeah. You know, I said to Michael and I were talking about it afterwards, and I said, you know, at the time, I felt like there are a lot of people who probably went to see this because they were Jennifer Lopez fans who were like, what am I watching? And a lot of people who went to see this
because, a music video,
right? And a lot of people who like might have gone to see here's exceptionally complex science fiction, but were like J-Lo, never mind. And like in that sense, it's a real. I'm very disappointed in the fact that this is not like heralded as one of the best films of its time.
Yeah, it's severely underrated. I also want to stress for our viewers who don't know you that Michael is your husband. You weren't talking to yourself.
Oh, yeah. So I have a husband named Michael and I'm named Michael, and it's not confusing at all. It makes things much easier, actually.
Yeah. Who did that, Michael? Whose turn is it? Michael's.
Exactly.
Great. We have a good share of Michaels on the Classics Track, and
we really do.
I approve. A
bumper crop.
A bumper crop of Michaels.
A full drop.
A full drop of Michael. Somewhere there's a picture on the All Michaels panel that we did last year. I don't know that I ever saw the photo, but I got a boom mic in the shot, and at the top there's a boom mic coming in to the top of the picture.
I love it.
Yes.
By our friend Deanna, Gary. But gold, solid gold. I say because the sell is so good. Let's leave the let's stop it on an up note instead of talking about when I interviewed the director of Battlefield Earth, which was also the year 2000.
Wow.
I'll
Just answer this question. How much literature did he try to give you?
There was an amount.
Oh, gosh.
And at one point, out of my mouth came the following sentence. I said to him, so did anyone on the set read the book? And then, unfazed, he comes back to me and says, we all read the book. And my first thought was, oh, God, really? You all read the book? And he said, well, we all carried it around and would flip to pages, like, because John told you to. Because you were commanded as you to do it. I don't know. No offense to, I would say no offense to any Scientologists, but I guess we would know if they were watching, right? Whether
you see, all of a sudden Joe's video cuts to black, and Joe, Joe. 5 minutes later, Joe sits back down. No, Tom Cruise is a genius.
Yeah.
We should all get our thetas cleaned. You don't understand.
I have never been happier to be in quarantine.
The lady from King of Queens is the devil.
Psychologists are evil. Oh, I didn't know Frank Miller was one of you.
Right? Oh.
Yeah, now, okay. Total side note. Frasier, one of the best shows ever.
Right.
Frasier, as Frasier kept going, cast members of Cheers started appearing. And it was neat. Sam was on it. Woody, Diane, which was a great episode. But Sally said, I'm not going to appear on that Frasier show because I don't believe in psychiatry. And I said, I am done with you, madam. And I was, and I thought, okay, well, we don't need you. We had Diane and Lilith. So
I kind of feel like if you explicitly say you don't believe in psychiatry, you probably need psychiatry.
That's if there's a list of reasons why. If number one, I think number one is I say I don't believe in it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of the opposite of Stockholm syndrome, to bring it full circle.
You guys, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having us.
I feel like just getting to see your faces, and I mean, we don't know what's going to happen with the Dragon Cons, but we'll do this if we have to.
Yeah.
And even we'll definitely do this again. We will pick another topic. In the comments below, say things you would like us to talk about.
Yeah. And say them pointing where Gary is pointing. I don't know where that is. There it is.
In the comments below.
Yeah, say things below. But Michael and Gary, thank you. We should be streaming to the Classic Track page, and enjoy. We'll be doing more of these things, and I've got like 18 ideas for just quick little things to do that I'm just going to spring on you, much like the guy,
much like Scientology,
the Scientology little book, the little Scientology book. Oh, by the way, bam.
Okay, true story. I have to end with this. I had a friend of mine. I had a friend and a mutual friend, and my friend's mutual friend was like, "Hey, I need to talk to the two of you guys. You doing anything Saturday afternoon?" Like, no, okay. So he goes, he sits down, he pulls out a briefcase, and I'm like, if you start to sell Amway at us, you can go away. And he looked at me and goes, well, if that's going to be your attitude. And he literally, that's what he was about to do, was try to sell us on Amway.
Wow. Oh my God. Wow.
So Joe's going to spring Joe Way on us.
Joe Way. It's just old issues of New Mutants. That's all I have.
I'm in.
I got a briefcase full right here. Well, you guys, thank you. We're definitely going to do this again. We've got. I'm going to entice the viewers and everyone. Nobody go anywhere. Stay in your seats.
Okay.
Where'd I put it? Yeah, here it is.
I love the classic Iron Man.
Yeah, that's really cute.
This is what we're going to read. I'm going to do it. We're going to do, amongst our many live reading plans that we have, I'm going to read Fang Face.
I still can't believe you found that.
Novelization. I have a Fang Face novelization because, of course, I do.
Mm-hmm.
And delightful is what this is.
I had forgotten about Fang Face until you mentioned that book, and I was like, "Oh my god, that's how weird '70s cartoon shows were." What if we have a werewolf investigating mysteries? What?
It just demonstrates how much acid there was floating around in that time period.
Mm-hmm.
Chapter 19.
Yeah, we hadn't gotten to Coke yet.
No. Chapter 19. Oh no, Pugsley looked upset. Whenever I mention food, Fangface tries to eat me. Fangface licked his lips hungrily as he started after Pugsley, who had run out of the room. Gulp! Fangface swallowed Pugsley. Let me out of here, you nincompoop! Pugsley yelled from inside Fangface's mouth.
You know, that does remind me that Ginger Snaps came out in 2000.
Oh, yeah.
Similar.
Now there's a Saturday morning cartoon waiting to happen.
Right.
Snaps. That would be awesome. Super awesome. Guys, thank you. We're going to do this again very, very, very soon.
Thank you so much. This has been delightful. My heart needed this.
All my best to your wonderful husband.
Yes.
Yes, all my best to all of your people.
And to all of you out there in TV Wonderland, you guys are the best. Thank you for watching and or viewing and or whatever the thing is you're doing. We appreciate you, and thank you for coming to the American Sci-Fi Classics Track. Good night, folks.
Bye.
Should do the grandma Clampett way.
Dad, you better come down from there. Jethro.
I heard my name. I was watching y'all on my phone.
Look, it's
pick up dinner.
I can pick up dinner. I texted Famke Janssen in all caps while I was driving. It was dangerous.
That's him. We put it up on the screen. Famke Janssen was in big letters.
Yeah, I saw. I was keeping up with it.
I love it. Thank you, guys. We will see you soon.
It's a lot of fun. Oh, God.
And now there are two Michaels, so it's a real classic track panel.
Yes, indeed.
I wore my